The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Oh man, I'm loving that. I'm loving that music, that brunch-tastic music for this right now.
Now presenting my smug face.
You said you'd get the new intro going for the Saturday shows. I like it.
I wasn't lying. But anyway, folks, welcome to No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports. We are presented by Belly Up Sports in association with Gozilla Media. My name is Ryan McCarthy. I'm one of the broadcast partners here. To my right is a very sad Edmonton Oilers fan, Dustin Henry. Dustin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right, but I was all happy because they tied it up 1-1 the other night, and then I fell asleep watching the Stars and the Wild, and I was informed that the Oilers lost. But I still got to support the team. To quote David Putty, got to support the team.
Got to support the team.
So I figured, and also it's morning. I'm planning on working out after this, so I needed to cover my greasy head.
Well, at least you got hair. You got a hat to cover your hair. I don't.
Yeah.
But before we continue with our Saturday Brunch episode, just want to remind you about our social media channels: Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at NoCredsREQ, Facebook.com/NoCredsREQ. On YouTube, it's NoCreds. It's at NoCreds. It's YouTube.com at NoCredsREQ. If you're watching on either Facebook or on YouTube, smash that like button. Smash it responsibly. If you're an audio subscriber, if you're an audio listener, subscribe to the podcast on either Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Google Play, wherever you podcast. Rate and review. No matter how nice or how mean the review is, I will read it on the air. And also, if you're watching live, this is a listener engagement show. I know you've been waiting. I know we were just on the air a few days ago, Dustin, but
yeah,
I know you gotta hear that sound.
Oh, always.
That's right, folks. Engage with the show, whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, whether on the replay or live. We want to hear from you. Engage with us on the show. So we've got another guest coming in today. We have a buddy of mine who's always in the chat with Snowman in the morning. I don't know if Mr. Snowman is watching right now. If he is, salute to you, Snowman, and also to the rest of the crew over at Snowman in the morning. But we're going to bring in my friend all the way from Norway. He goes by the handle Sikk Diggy. He's a good dude. We're going to talk about this wild story out of the soccer world. And we all got comments in the section. Good morning, guys. Good morning to you, Rod Uncensored. Glad you could join us. But we're going to bring Sikk Diggy in. We're going to talk about this wild story out of Europe that involves a professional soccer player for Paris Saint-Germain. So I'll go ahead and bring him in. Sikk Diggy. Sikk, how are we doing today, bud?
First and foremost, good dog to all the summon, which means hello, good day, everyone in Norwegian. It is after 5 in the afternoon over here, and it's a wonderful spring day here, although we are expecting rain tomorrow morning, which will be pretty good because it washes out all the dirt that was left over from the snow melt. So, where shall we begin? Regarding this issue, this whole fiasco, I would say.
Okay.
It all surrounds a certain football player. His name, or football as we call it here in Europe, soccer as you guys would call it in the States. I grew up calling it both. But it was a Moroccan international, Spanish by birth, by the name of Ashram Hakimi. He is a defender. He currently plays professionally in the French league for Paris Saint-Germain, or PSG. And he also plays for the Moroccan national team. In fact, he was part of the Moroccan national team last year that reached all the way to the semifinals in the World Cup.
Yeah, I was going to ask if he was on that team or not, but yeah.
And like many of the players on that team, he's actually second generation Moroccan. Most of them are European born. They're predominantly French, Belgian, and Dutch nationals. He, among a couple other, are Spanish nationals, while their starting goalkeeper happens to be Canadian by birth.
Interesting.
Yeah, nice mix over there.
Well, dual citizenship has its benefits. Well, to kind of preface this entire story right now, I need you guys to remember a movie called Shawshank Redemption.
Okay, all right.
All right.
Andy Dufresne, got it.
Oh, we also need to give disclaimer first and foremost, folks. It's okay, I got this, Ryan. The following viewpoints that are about to be expressed in this segment are the guests and the guests alone. Do not reflect the host or the co-host in whatsoever, or No Credentials podcast. Viewer discretion is advised. And with that, I'll add, this segment is brought to you by Screwball VPN. When things get a little screwy, when the Wi-Fi is out of control, Screwball VPN is your go-to. All the way out of left field.
Thank you, Screwball VPN, for sponsoring this segment.
We all need ads here, you know. This is a carryover from. So anyway, Shawshank Redemption. The scene in particular is this one scene where the inmates were loaned out to do some work on a construction site. So they're up on the rooftop. So Tim Robbins, who plays Andy Dufresne, along with Red, played by Morgan Freeman, and also the narrator, are among those inmates who are doing some of the labor work, and they're being overseen by the prison guards. Among them, the head guard, who is played by Clancy Brown. In this particular scene, Clancy Brown is overseeing the inmates while he's brewing and discussing with some of his colleagues, or his underlings, so to speak, where he talks about he just came into some inheritance that's about 5 figures. Now understand, the movie is set in 1950s and 60s here, folks.
Yeah.
5 figures then, not what figures is now. It would probably be like 6 or 7. And when he says I received an inheritance, one of the younger colleagues looks at him and says, "Well, congratulations, that's great news." He just turns to him and berates him by explaining to him that no, it is not a good thing, considering that the IRS will take a huge chunk of it through taxation and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Andy Dufresne, Tim Robbins' character, overhears the conversation, and being the banker that he is, just walks up to them. Red tries to tell him, don't go. Andy, where you going? Andy, where you going? And immediately he stops and looks at the head guard, Clancy Brown, and says, "CO, do you love your wife?" Feeling offended by the question, Clancy Brown rebukes him. But once the question is asked by Tim Robbins, salute to you, Snowman. How you doing, sir? We got to acknowledge the chat. Sorry. But anyway.
Always.
Feeling further enraged by the question being repeated, Brown would grab Robbins and threaten to throw him over. And as soon as he says, "Okay, throw me over if you want to kiss that money goodbye," and while holding him over the edge, he asks him, what do you know about this? And then he explains to him that there is a legal loophole where he can protect that money without having to worry about the IRS, and that is to put it under his wife's name.
Mm-hmm.
And then he explains that in any accountant or lawyer will explain to him that putting assets under a spouse's name protects it from any taxation whatsoever. Once he realizes who Andy Dufresne is, he says, "Wait a minute, you're that banker." Yeah. So what do you want out of this? And he says, "All right, if what I say checks out, I'm asking that me and the fellow inmates here get a certain number of cold beers as a reward." And in the end of that scene, they ended up getting beers because it turned out what he said was right.
Yeah, he knew what he was talking about.
He was a banker. And that said, "Oh, who's here? Look who's here."
It's Tagalong. It's the show mascot.
Yes, the show mascot.
He actually just turned 11 2 days ago.
Oh man, happy birthday, Tag.
So, protecting assets here. That is the preface, the context in which I'm about to explain the story. So, Ashraf Hakimi, who plays in Paris Saint-Germain, has just completed his first year, and now he's on his second year with the team. His entire legal fiasco began in late February of this year, where he found himself being accused of SA, if I can say that.
We got the context. Yep.
Of SA by a 24-year-old woman in France, and he himself is 24. And he denies any inappropriate action whatsoever. Unfortunately, in the beginning of March, an investigation was issued, and now he's under investigation. All the while, he remains in France to continue his career, but he's under certain restriction by law enforcement, as if not to contact the victim or do anything else. In response to this, his wife of 2 years, who apparently he's been separated from, decided to proceed with divorce proceedings. His wife, who is now 36 and is the mother of their 2 sons, ages 3 and 1, was demanding half and then some for child support.
Right.
Wow.
Unbeknownst to her, when they looked at the financial records and whatnot, it would appear that Mr. Hakimi, who last year was signed to a 60 million euro 5-year contract with Paris Saint-Germain, with the possibility of earning an additional 11 million in add-on incentives or bonuses, owns absolutely nothing, as everything apparently is under his mother's name.
Oh man.
On paper, he earns more than he does.
Right.
And in the court, it showed him admitting this. They clarified this in the court proceedings, and it showed afterwards in the aftermath that she has been ruled to have to pay him half. It showed him and his mother dancing after the whole fiasco and whatnot in the courtroom. Now, unfortunately, there has been a lot of buzz. This has been going viral for a few days, even for the past couple of weeks. A lot of people have been talking out of their rear end because they do not understand all the facts of the case, or as regard to Mr. Hakimi, his financial situation.
Yeah, because I initially, when you mentioned it in the chat on I think Wednesday or Thursday of Snowman in the Morning, I said I only saw the headline. Admittedly, I just saw the headline of it, so I needed to get the full context. And you sent me the article, which I thank you for. I appreciate it. But for those who aren't familiar with the situation, can you give us a little bit more context as to what's? I mean, you've given us a lot of the facts already, but there seems to be more behind the story.
Well, I had to do some digging. As someone who grew up playing the game and has loved the game, of course, the leagues that I personally follow are the Italian Serie A and the English Premier League. I haven't been big on the French league, but I have seen. I do check it out every once in a while, considering I do have some colleagues who are big fans of PSG's biggest rivals, Olympique Marseille.
Mm-hmm.
And the rivalry between those two clubs is quite intense. Anytime those two they get together twice a year, it can get, the tension can be cut with a knife.
You can throw out all the records. You can throw out all the records.
You got the tension there, high tension.
Yep.
So as far as Mr. Hakimi goes, this is probably unknown to American fans, unless they're well versed in European soccer, but in Europe, as well as in Africa, in Latin America, and in Asia, it is not uncommon for someone to sign a contract at 17 years of age. However, which is when he signed his first contract with his first team, Real Madrid, as he is a product of their sports academy. Now, most people have to understand, soccer players, they don't come out of college. They're not drafted out of college in Europe or in Latin America or in Africa or in Asia. No, or Australasia for that matter. Come out of sports academies that are sponsored directly or under direct control of a certain professional soccer team, or they are created by a former player and they have some sort of working relationship with that particular team.
Yeah,
and some of these kids.
Sorry to interrupt you. Some of the MLS clubs are trying to do the same thing over here in the States with the Major League Soccer. New York Red Bulls has an academy. I know that Atlanta has an academy. All the teams have soccer academies. They're trying to do this. They're trying to emulate the same type of model as they do with European clubs and African clubs and Asian clubs. So, yeah.
Well, wasn't I think in MLS way back, wasn't Freddie Adu signed when he was very young back in the day? I think.
Yep. Yeah. DC United signed him to a big contract when he was, I think, 16 or 17.
Yeah. And the MLB teams, they also do the same thing with some of their younger players. They go into, and some of these Latin American players have contracts with teams at quite young ages. So.
Yep.
But here's the thing about that. First of all, when most of these guys usually come out of, hey, what's going on, Cole Sports?
with a Z.
Yeah.
No, I said it wrong. I supposed to say Cole Sports. With a Z.
There we go.
Well, Mr. Hakimi himself is who was born in Madrid, Spain, but grew up in the small town of Getafe, which is about 8 miles south of Madrid. Mm-hmm. Attended the academy that was sponsored by Real Madrid Castilla. He was recruited like around 13, 14. That's how young they're recruited to these academies, and they stay there until they're 17, 18 years of age, or until the year they turn 18. By then, they will be approached by agents, sports agents, or scouts from other teams who are interested in signing them. In his case, the problem is that, well, technically speaking, a 17-year-old cannot sign a contract nowhere. None of these, in neither continent, no country can sign a 17-year-old legally. In order for a 17-year-old, when they begin their careers, to sign a contract, they need to have their legal guardians with them. So when his agent first approached him when he was 17, he had to get written permission from Mr. Hakimi's father, Hassan Hakimi, not his mother. His parents, who are still married and together for 25 plus years, his father has the final say. So when he signed his first contract, he had to get an agent. That agent had to get permission from Mr. Hakimi's father. And then when he negotiated his first contract with Real Madrid, his first club, he had to present it to not only the young man but also to his father, who had to look it over, along with his parent. But since they're working class and they're not well versed in the law, I'm sure they had to talk to a lawyer, accountant, or someone they know within their circle or their community who can help them out, figure this stuff out and see if this is legit. However, the other thing that also another requirement is the young man needs to have a bank account. And Ryan, judging by that smile on your face, you know exactly where I'm going with this.
Mm-hmm.
Given he's still technically 17 at the time, this was in the summer of 2016. He would not turn 18 until November of that year. So an account had to be opened on his behalf by his parents. And under the advisement of the agent, the accountant, or whoever, it was decided that the account would be opened under his mother's name. And this is my theory, basically, although I could be proven wrong. But most likely it was opened under his mother's name. If it was under his father, it may have been subject to taxation. However, even if it's written under even if it's opened under his mother's name, his father still has to co-sign, as they are both his legal guardians.
Right.
So this arrangement has been set up ever since he started his professional career back in the fall of 2016. He did 2 years with Real Madrid, and then in 2018, 2019, they loaned him out to the German club Borussia Dortmund.
Yep.
He did great over there.
It might have been a teammate of Christian Pulisic from the USA.
Pulisic, yeah.
Yep, Pulisic. Sorry.
He did good at Chelsea, but things don't always work out.
Yeah.
I'm a Manchester United fan myself, so I'm not very fond of Chelsea, but it is what it is. So after his time with Madrid was over, I'm on my tablet. He signed his second contract, which was with Italian giants Inter Milan, which was 2019. Yeah, in 2020, for 40 million euros, with plus 5 million in incentives. So that's up to 40. He could have made a potential 45 million total. Mm-hmm. And this is the year before last. So and around that time, that's when in 2018 is when he met his wife, who is a actress in her own right.
Before you get to that, mention how old this young lady is.
His wife, whose name is Hiba Abouk, is an actress. Mm-hmm. Currently, she is 36 years old, while he is 24. They met in 2018.
When he
was about 19 going on 20. He was about to turn. He would not turn 20 until November because he was born in November of 98.
Wow.
He was 19. They met at a photo shoot, apparently, for Vogue. And this is during his stint at Borussia Dortmund. Mm-hmm. They kept the relationship quiet. Well, actually went public with it. They married in secret in 2020, around the time he signed his contract deal with.
In secret.
Christian Cole.
That's
I love you, Cole Johnson.
That's one of the top audience engagements we've ever had on this show. I'll tell you that.
He's the Zach Wilson of European soccer.
No, we could say Cougar. I think technically she would be considered a Puma, but that's neither here nor there.
That's neither here nor there. Yeah. Go ahead.
Like I said, they met when he was 19, she was 31. She herself is a second-generation Spanish national, but however, her family are originally from Tunisia, although her late father, is of Libyan descent. Anyway, they met in 2018, like I said, while he was at Borussia Dortmund, and then they married around the same time. He signed his $40 million deal with Inter Milan, the Italian big giants, opposite of my favorite team and their rivals, AC Milan. Don't get me started on that rivalry. It was around that time they had their first child. And then while at AC Milan, he helped the club win. Yes?
Go ahead. Keep going.
I thought you wanted to say something. Excuse me.
No. Tag along is being destructive, so I'll be right back. You keep going, though. I got my headphones on.
So anyway, what happened was they married around the same time. He signed his $40 million deal with Inter Milan in 2020. And in the 2020-21 season, he helped them win the Scudetto, which is the league title. It's from there he caught the attention of two clubs. One was Chelsea FC in London. The other is the team he's currently with, Paris Saint-Germain in France. Now, unfortunately, people don't know this thing about how contracts work in soccer. You can actually sign a player who's still under contract with another team. Depending on how many years are left on the contract, you have to buy them out and then pay an additional fee as compensation to the other team. But that depends on if the player in question and the team are willing to do business. Both Chelsea, so in the summer of 2021, both Chelsea and Paris Saint-Germain really wanted to acquire this young man. Mm. And so, considering that you're going to lose a guy you promised to pay 40 million euros for 5 years, and you still have 32 million left to pay him, considering he has only 4 years left on his contract. So they had to pull out some big checks just to acquire this man. And unfortunately, PSG outbid Chelsea. Of course, Chelsea was hoping to acquire him simply because they have another Moroccan, his teammate, who was also part of that Moroccan team in 2022, Hakim Ziyech, who is a winger who plays on the right side of the attack or midfield, and paired with Hakimi are a terror for any team on that side. But unfortunately, Chelsea could not match PSG when they offered 58 million euros in transfer fees to acquire this young man. So PSG wins, and Hakimi ends up signing a 60 million euro 5-year deal in the summer of 2021 with PSG. Mm-hmm. No, sorry, 20. No, yeah, 2021, sorry. 2021, sorry. In 2021, that's when they signed the contract season. So 60 million euros with an additional 11 million, potentially, if he completes any add-ons, like certain milestones he makes. So we're looking at 12 million a year, and an additional 2.2 for any benchmarks he hits. Unfortunately, a lot of people did not know his financial status at the time, not even his own wife. Because, like I said, throughout the whole time he was playing, his finances, 80% of all of his earnings went to bank accounts that were under his mother's name. All properties he has purchased are under his mother's name. And this is a decision that his parents obviously made because they realized, well, first of all, even though he got married at 21, 22, and became a father around the same time, this is our son. We know how young men can get when they get a lot of money. They can get a little mature. So for safekeeping, we're going to have to maintain this financial arrangement, and it will be securing for his own children, as he has 2 young boys. He's with his ex-wife now. Mm-hmm. And his ex-wife is, no slouch herself. She's an accomplished actress. Right. She's mostly known on Spanish television. She's mostly known for her involvement in Spanish films and Spanish television. So, apparently, when the story broke of him having this allegation of abuse in 2022, this February, excuse me, it only exacerbated whatever strange was in his marriage. And honestly, I don't blame his wife for deciding to proceed with divorce proceedings. You just stepped out on the marriage, you did something you weren't supposed to do, and you have 2 sons. But at the same time, I don't blame his family for being insistent that his fortune would remain under their control until he's old enough and mature enough to handle it himself. Mm-hmm. Even though even though it's under his mother's name, like I said, his father still has to co-sign everything as he is the head of the household. Right. His mother, if asked, she will defer everything to his father. That is part of their culture. That is part of their upbringing. The parents, that is.
that was my next question. Is it a cultural thing, or is it just an immaturity thing? But it sounds like it's definitely a culture thing.
The father, he realizes his son is successful, but it was primarily just to keep tabs on just to make sure he will not act a fool with his earnings.
So he's like LeVar Ball, but with an actually being responsible.
Absolutely. It's under your mother's name, although your father has to co-sign on it because he is the head of the household and wants him. And his father, people forget, everybody praises his mother, but his father is the one who needs to be praised as just as much. Although in their culture, the father's usually praised behind closed doors because fathers have to be stoic, humble about everything.
Yep. And
I'm sure his father still works to this day.
Yeah, and this is a Muslim culture, I suspect, correct?
They are Moroccans. They are from Morocco. They are Muslim.
Okay.
His parents immigrated to Spain in the mid '90s, and they had him and his three.
And this is not to cast aspersions on any culture or anything like that. I just wanted to be certain because I'd rather get.
It's understandable. You would see the same thing with certain Christian families from other parts of the world who immigrate to Western Europe.
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, my parents especially. Mm-hmm. My father being the sole breadwinner of the family, he has the final say on everything. And if I were to be in Mr. Hakimi's shoes, my father would be adamant, keep the money under your mother's name until you feel that you are mature enough to handle this. Mm-hmm. And as much as I would like to argue with him about it, I realize he has a point.
Yep.
And it's proven in this case that it was a smart thing to do. And I would tell you, and this is not the only person who does this. Any 17-year-old, when they sign their first professional contract, they have to have everything under their parents' name until they turn 18 or until they prove they're mature enough to handle their own fortunes.
Right.
And I would not be surprised if prior to this case or even after this case, you start seeing more and more professional athletes putting their own personal properties under their parents' names, especially under the names of their mothers.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, this could set a precedent because he's skating away pretty good from this whole thing, if I understand it right.
Yeah.
Well, in accordance with Muslim tradition, I would not be surprised if they had to, because there's a thing called the maher. A lot of people don't know. Now, I am not a Muslim, but I do have Muslim relatives, and I'm familiar with the Muslim culture. Mm-hmm. There's something called a maher. It's basically a dowry. However, in non-Muslim cultures, there's also people who have to, understand that when you arrange a marriage, there has to be a dowry, which is a bride price.
Right.
So I would not be surprised if when he married her, despite his parents' reluctance to accept it, they had to provide her with her family with a maher or a bride price for her hand in marriage. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure, but I would not be surprised either way.
So is that similar? It sounds like similar to a prenuptial agreement, but like I said, I'm not going to speculate.
No, agreement, but it's something different. The dowries, because anybody who studied anthropology would understand that a dowry was more like a security bond of sorts, especially like if you are acquiring a woman as a spouse for one of your children. That security bond was to make sure that she is up to snuff, and especially because if she is a virgin, then it is what it is. Mm-hmm. If it's been disproven that she's not, or there's something wrong, she has to return home to her family, and the dowry has to be repaid. And that's why some families have to make sure that, and this is not just in the Muslim culture, in other cultures, they have the sense of a dowry. Sometimes it goes the other way around, where a dowry is paid from the bride's family to the husband's family. For example, in India, among the Hindus.
Yep.
But there's an anthropological explanation for that. But we're not going to go into that. This is a sports show, not an anthropology show.
Well, I mean, we could go with the tag the best sports and anthropology show on the internet. I mean, Dr. John Deloney's show is the best mental health and architecture podcast. So who could add to it?
Who knows? We could be picking up a whole new market.
I know, right?
My father's a civil engineer. My dad would have been a great reoccurring guest with him. But I would have been embarrassed, You know how parents like to embarrass their sons and their kids.
Yeah.
We all know that. But that is the case in a nutshell, folks. One man basically had to protect his assets. And it wasn't because of his own ideas. It's not even his mother's idea. His mother just went along with it as this was advised to her and her husband, as this was advised to them by an attorney, an accountant, or their son's, sports agent. And it makes perfect sense because to put everything on your mother's name, especially in the year 2016, 2017, where Spanish football, or especially Spanish soccer, was marred by certain cases, like great soccer players like Lionel Messi and Neymar, who were playing for Barcelona at the time. Both of them found themselves in court cases regarding tax evasion and tax irregularities. Rival team Real Madrid saw a few of their players implicated in certain tax evasion cases as well. For example, Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, fortunately for Mr. Messi, although he was convicted, they reduced his jail sentence to a fine. But this reflects a lot of things that were going on in Spain, both athletically, professionally, but also economically. As Spain was still going through an economic crisis, similar to what was going on in neighboring Portugal, in Italy, and in Greece. And these economic crises were affecting and being dealt with differently from each country to country within the European Union. Mm-hmm. So that's the case in a nutshell. And for it to be a precedent, I would not be surprised whatsoever. But then again, I'm pretty sure that there are certain athletes who already have this type of arrangement. In accordance to this, Snowman would say, CYA, cover your...
Well, we got some ads in the chat from Cole Sports as we go. This is a tribute to Sikk Diggy here. So let me start off with this one. This Sikk Diggy appearance on No Credentials Required is brought to you by Ben Simmons Detection. When a certain NBA player triggers an Amber Alert, trust in Ben Simmons Detection.
I'm gratefully honored.
And he also goes on to say, this segment is brought to you by... Actually, Dustin, why don't you read this one?
This segment is brought to you by Save Your Money VPN. When you need to save all your money, hard.
I love it. Oh, that reminds me. Cole, you're going to love this, but unfortunately, Amber Alert! Ben Simmons was just seen outside of Yankee Stadium getting pelted with bottle caps and broken bottles and beer bottles after he was caught wearing a New York Mets cap accidentally, along with a Boston Red Sox jacket. Talk about a fashion plate gone wrong. Somebody call the fashion police.
That's a faux pas.
Yeah, that's the colors don't even match.
That's fashion backwards.
It could have been worse. I mean, it could have been worse. Imagine you walking around the streets of Pittsburgh wearing a Philadelphia Flyers jersey or Eagles jersey.
That wouldn't go well.
No, that would not go well.
In downtown Philly.
Actually, Cole did post a question in the chat, in the comment section. He says, my question for Sikk is this: how huge is a certain country's soccer league in other countries around Europe? So you talked about the La Liga and Serie A and the Premier League and the French Ligue 1. How huge are these leagues?
Since the 90s especially, these leagues have been very huge, especially once they started securing major broadcasting deals. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, we talk about how big the NBA got in the 90s, especially with guys like Jordan, where you started seeing players getting multi-million-dollar deals and whatnot. Kind of money that players in the 80s didn't see.
Right.
In Europe, the major leagues, first of all, are tier 1, tier 2. The top ones, first of all, are the English Premier League.
Yep.
Followed by Spanish La Liga, Primera División. The German Bundesliga is also pretty big,
Yep.
along with France, Ligue 1, Italy's Serie A, Portugal's Primera Division, as well as the Netherlands Eredivisie. These are like the major leagues in all of Western Europe. Other leagues like the Swiss, Belgian, and of course the Turkish league is also starting to make headways and coming into prominence. They're usually second tier, but the huge impact or the influence a lot of these teams have is why. I mean, the broadcast. Excuse me. Hang on.
Yep.
I'm on my tablet and getting pop-ups from Discord.
Oh, I was probably one of them. I was letting 8 Pistols group know I'm live.
We're still trying to figure out some of the settings on my Discord on my tablet.
Yeah.
But these leagues have just gotten bigger since the 90s, especially in the case of England, when the Premier League started to distance itself from the rest of FA especially when it was under sponsorship by Barclays Bank. It's only until and Barclays Bank should deal with the Premier League was only until 2018. 2017, 2018, that's when the league became independent of itself. Other leagues who've been struggling, like Ligue 1, they've had to incorporate a sponsor or so. But broadcasting deals is where the money is for most of these leagues, since these are the most watched leagues of all time, of all of Europe and of the world. Major players from South America are thinking if they need to make an impact, it's to secure a place in some of these leagues. But you also have kids coming out of. I'm sorry, can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, it's Ryan I can't hear Ryan for some reason.
Oh yeah, right. Are you muted? Maybe. I still
Yeah,
don't have it. This is live, folks. This is live. Live and on the fly.
But anyway, how huge these leagues are is reflected on how popular they are, not just in Europe, but overseas.
Oh, I fixed it.
The major.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well. But like I said, these leagues have been only expanded ever since, especially in the case of especially the English Premier League and the Spanish La Liga. These two have, homes of some of the largest teams, most popular teams. And they garner huge fandom throughout Africa, the Middle East, Latin America, and in Asia. So imagine the reach that some of these clubs have. And some of these clubs, despite having their own football academies, they have a network of academies that they have affiliation with in other countries, on other continents. So as much as if they're interested in signing prospects to these academies, it's not that hard for them, as they all have scouts, and some of them. In fact, another. I kind of lost my thought here for a moment, but what I can say is the only continent where football has also such a huge impact is South America, with CONMEBOL, compared to UEFA. UEFA is Europe's governing body of soccer, but CONMEBOL is South America's governing body. And their major tournaments for professional leagues like the Copa Libertadores and the Copa Sudamericana does rival in scope, but does not have the reach like UEFA's Champions League and Europa Leagues, respectively. Mm-hmm. But still, a lot of players coming out of these South American leagues do find their way into being signed by European leagues, and the impact is sudden.
Mm-hmm.
As it is proven that Europe is where all the money is, first and foremost.
Yep.
Although you're starting to see certain players are trying to expand eastward, heading towards the Middle East. In the case of Cristiano Ronaldo in Saudi Arabia right now with Al Nassr, certain players have tried to, after leaving Europe, tried to go to the MLS and try to raise its profile. I mean, David Beckham before, you had Wayne Rooney do the same thing. You had guys like Andrea Pirlo from Italy. You had Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
Frank Lampard. Yep.
Lampard, yep, that's Frankie. Wait, are you a Chelsea supporter, Brian?
No, I was a Red Bull supporter for a couple seasons, and they have a big rivalry with NYCFC. And I remember in the beginning when NYCFC came on board, they signed Pirlo and they signed Frankie Lampard. So that's how I know.
If I'm they also signed Kaká as well.
Yep.
Brazilian midfielder Kaká as well. So
I think they remember also David Silva, if I'm not mistaken.
Spaniard David Silva, I'm sure he was there at some time.
Yep, because Red Bulls had Thierry Henry, they had Bradley Wright Phillips for a spell for a couple of years, and he's actually, I think he's still the number one goal scorer in Red Bull's history, if I'm not mistaken.
It was a shame when Henry left Arsenal, however, for a lot of people. When he went to Barcelona, he did achieve great success, and then he decided to retire in New York.
Mm-hmm.
But since his retirement, he's been involved, but a lot of them find their way into broadcasting.
Right.
As well as also in coaching. I mean, I remember, was it Monsieur Henry, before he went to broadcasting, he was one of the assistant staff of Mr. Martinez, who's the current coach of the Belgian national team.
Right. And Patrick Vieira was the first head coach of NYCFC.
Ah, yes, Patrick Vieira. Frenchman of Senegalese descent.
Yep.
He was part of the team that won the '98 World Cup, and they thought with that team that could bring unity to France and end all the racial tensions. If only that were true.
Yeah.
Right. But it is what it is. Yeah. So if there's any questions Chad about soccer, I'll be more than happy to try to answer.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely have to have you back on first. If we do soccer segments in the future, we'll definitely have to have you back on. Cole says I find the cross pollination of all these soccer leagues fascinating. It is very fascinating. I mean, it's cream. Cash rules everything around me when it comes to European soccer. So you got a lot of big clubs dishing out that money, like Man United, Chelsea, Bayern Munich. They shell out that money to bring in the big players, and it works. It works. Is it because it's no salary cap when it comes to FIFA or UEFA?
The problem that has been the biggest problem, especially when we got new owners for certain clubs. For example, PSG, they were owned by members of the Qatari, by a subsidiary of the Qatari welfare fund, and that's where all the big money came from. This is back in 2011.
Right.
Of course, neighboring Saudi Arabia's welfare fund, there's a subsidiary of theirs was able to acquire Newcastle United.
Yep.
While back, and of course, a lot of Newcastle supporters were just like not understanding how politics and sports and soft power and sports washing come about. Did not understand that, yes, St. James's Park, which is the name of their stadium, Newcastle United, they had new owners, which means there's going to be an injection of cash and funds. But just because that worked for Chelsea in 2004, when they were acquired by a Russian oligarch, Roman Abramovich, may not be for everybody else. You saw this when
Can I make a comparison?
Okay,
can I make a comparison?
Yeah.
I would think a comparison to Daniel Snyder of the Washington insert name here. Yeah. When he would bring in big free agents and they would flop. Like they would get their money and then they would just they didn't live up to the expectations.
I'm looking at
I
you,
believe
Albert Ainsworth.
I believe it was the 2000-2001 season in particular. We had, Marty Schottenheimer or something like that was his name, I think.
Marty Schottenheimer was the head coach. Yep.
Yeah.
Was a coach.
He rest in
And
peace.
I remember watching us on Sports Center where the football analysts were together and just saying, money does not buy chemistry.
Nope.
Yep. And that's true. Although I will say for Marty in that season, they went 0-5 and then they won their next 5 games, or whatever. They finished 8-8 that season. So he did manage to have a modicum of success, which we've found out is nearly impossible with Dan Snyder running things.
And now he won't be, and reportedly he's not going to be the owner anymore, as he's selling to a group that is headed by David Harris and Magic Johnson.
Yeah, which that's a joyous day for football. You don't want to disparage anybody, but Dan Snyder, it's open season. He's a piece of garbage.
Yeah, and Washington fans everywhere were doing the praise dance with with Cole.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Josh Harris.
If we could play that clip right now, that would be great.
I don't have that clip, unfortunately, but I'll try to find. I'll try to have him to share it with me someday.
Well, unfortunately, I will say, unfortunately, there is, fortunately, the governing bodies of each country in Europe, as well as UEFA, and the governments of these countries do have financial laws that enforce them, that keep everybody in check. Unfortunately, in Spain, with the economic crisis and everything, it didn't work. It wasn't effective as people thought, especially when a couple of teams went bankrupt, and players at one point were just so upset they just went on strike in the middle of the season because they hadn't been paid in months. In Germany, it's more robust. In France, they've had issues where they've had scandals, this, that, and the third, especially financial ones and bribery. Italy, especially in particular in 2006 when they won the World Cup. The Italian league during the 2006 season was marred by scandal because apparently the club presidents was basically like the GM of every club, and club owners have been involved. The top teams were involved in some type of match fixing, which saw Juventus FC, the biggest club in Turin.
I remember that scandal. Yep.
Who won the Scudetto? They found themselves demoted to Serie A B as a result.
Yep.
AC Milan, my favorite team I support, were found also complicit for their part in the scandal. They were told that they were going to start the season with 15 points in the negative. And I'll explain point system, the point thing for another time for other players, for other listeners. Yep. Because I'm sure they're probably.
I can sort of sum it up. It's 2 points for a win, 1 point for a draw, and 3 points for a win and 1 point for a draw. Okay, and then the table depends on your standing in the table depends on how many points you have.
Points you have, and if teams are equal in points, then they have to decide by goal difference. How many goals you've scored overall in the season compared to how many you've conceded.
Yep.
So AC Milan had to start at the bottom of the following season, minus 15. Mm-hmm. Which, although Juventus, they bounced back. They got themselves promoted the following season to Serie A, and then they reclaimed their title. Although most of the players from that team had to leave because most of them had to be released because, along with being demoted, they also had to pay a hefty fine, which means a lot of these players had to be sold off to other teams to keep the club afloat.
Right.
But this is very fascinating, and we're getting in too deep. We're getting deep in the weeds, and I've been taking too much of your time. I apologize for that.
No, thank you for joining us. We do appreciate it and explaining all the nuances of this of European soccer, and also this big divorce
scandal
story, whichever you want to call it. But
I will say this about the case, however. The divorce case is over, from what I understand. However, I'm not sure if the rape allegation he's still facing right now is if the investigation is complete or whatever. That will have to be found out in time. But in the meantime, he's been told that he can travel and remain in France and play with the team, but he's got a restraining order of some sort against him.
No, it's probably a no flight restriction.
Mm-hmm. Something like that.
No, he can fly, but he can
I meant out of the country, out of France.
Yeah.
We can travel unless, for example, if France has if PSG, for example, have to go out of the country to another country in Europe for a European tournament or something like that. He's allowed to go on unless they have probable cause.
Oh, okay.
But gotcha. Still, we'll see.
Okay. Well, Sikk,
could be wrong though. But, no.
Yeah. Well, we want to thank you for joining us, man. We do appreciate you joining us on the Saturday Brunch edition. This is very educational, and we're looking forward to expanding our brand to not only sports but also anthropology. So we want to thank you for that as well.
Yeah.
Because we have to, as much as we are sports fans, unfortunately, a lot of people are not financially literate and are not well versed in the financial aspect and the business aspect of the game.
Oh, we got one more ad read. We got one more ad read before you take off, Sikk. So just from Cole. This soccer update has brought. Let me start over. This soccer update has been brought to you by Puma Lip Balm. Puma Lip Balm. No mo chip and chap.
Oh man! And the funny thing is, I don't own any Puma LG. Never in my life. That's fun. Well, if you want me to stick around, I'll be happy to. We can discuss some more of this.
Yeah, we're going to talk some Major League Baseball and some NFL gambling suspensions. But before we go ahead and transition over to that, we just want to let you know that we are brought to you by Mahler Brothers Golf. We all want to look good on the golf course, but when it often comes at the expense of feeling good. Mahler Brothers Golf has polos that look good and feel good. With their lightweight and stretchy material that hugs your body, you will feel cool while looking just as cool. Their polos are guaranteed to make you look better, but it's up to you to golf better. On a hot summer day on the golf course, there's no polo that you would rather wear than Mahler Brothers Golf signature polos. Mahler Brothers Golf has a large catalog of polos with designs for those who want a loud design and others for those who want a more subtle and sleek looking design. They also have fun t-shirts, hats, tumblers, and so much more to make your golfing experience better. Go to MahlerBrothers.com. That's MahlerBros.com. Use promo code BELLYUP at checkout for 15% off your order. That's Mahler Brothers, MahlerBros.com. Again, use promo code BELLYUP at checkout for 15% off your order. I could have used some last night when I was hitting golf balls at the driving range. I got a new set of golf clubs back in October of 2021. And this is only my third time hitting with them, and I did poor. So I could have used a Mahler Brothers Golf polo to keep myself cool while I was under pressure.
Well, yeah, and when you look good, you play good. No.
Thank you, Prime Time. So go ahead to Mahler Brothers Golf. That's MahlerBros.com. Promo code BELLYUP for 15% off your order. So let's go ahead and dig into some Major League Baseball news. And we're going to start off with the Oakland A's, an ownership announcing this week that has a potential land sale in Las Vegas. So they have made their motivations clear that they are going to move the team from Oakland to Las Vegas. This will be the third franchise that has left the Oakland area over the last decade, Dustin. We had Eric Arditi from Barstool Sports this week, who we talked about the reverse protest with the Oakland A's fans happening on June 13th. Well, I guess the no credentials required curse has come to be because they announced that they're probably leaving the Oakland area starting probably within the next year or so. They're building a stadium in downtown Las Vegas. What's your opinion about this story?
When I first saw this, I saw it yesterday on ESPN while I was at work on my lunch break. And I was just really bummed out. Honestly, that was my first, and no disrespect to Vegas here, no disrespect intended at all, but it just, it was so transparent. When we had Eric on, I said that when he was explaining the situation and we were talking about it, I said that it reminded me of Clay Bennett and his purchase of the Sonics, and he kept saying he wanted to keep the Sonics in Seattle when it was clear that his intentions were not to keep the Sonics in Seattle. And it just feels, it feels the same way. Like I get very frustrated sometimes with these owners who complain that they need new stadiums, and then they expect the fan base to pay for it, the taxpayers. I think if you want a stadium that bad, you should at least be ponying up a hefty percentage as a person that has a ton of money and you have a built-in revenue source.
Exactly.
You have a built-in revenue source, and these guys like to sit here, these owners, and they like to sit here and they like to say, well, we just couldn't build a modern facility in Oakland. We just couldn't do it. So we're going to move the team to Vegas. Now, you wanted to move the team. You wanted to move the team. You didn't want to make it work in Oakland, and it's just unfortunate for a fan base. That fan base is going to get a bad rap. They're going to say that fans didn't support the team, and that's not the case.
That's a lie.
The team has had success. They've had recent success, as we've detailed in on previous shows, especially the one with Eric last week or earlier in the week, rather. It just really bums me out. And you know what? I don't know if there's going to be a now we should clarify, the deal is not official. It's not official yet, but it's probably going to happen.
It's very similar to the Cleveland Browns and Art Modell back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Very similar.
Yep. He came in, he swore he was going to keep the team there, but you really knew all along that he didn't want, it just is I just feel bad for Oakland fans, and no disrespect to Vegas. Like, obviously they've supported the Golden Knights, the Raiders. The Raiders have support everywhere. I think it's mostly because their colors. Everybody likes the silver and black. So Vegas fans will come out to support this team, and I almost hope that if this move does happen, that they change the name of the team, and they similar to the Sonics, they allow Oakland to keep the A's. And I know the A's moved from Kansas City back in the day. I know that.
And Philadelphia.
Oh yeah, Philadelphia. I forgot.
It started in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Chapter. But this just bums me out to see the fans taking the blame and another owner claiming that they couldn't build a modern stadium. They didn't want to make it work. I'm sorry. But if you wanted to make it work, you have the financial resources to make it work.
Yeah. I mean, for me, my opinion on stadiums on building stadiums has evolved. Oh, well, as a I'm being as politic as possible when I say my opinion. What's that?
You mean diplomatic?
Diplomatic. Yeah, diplomatic. Yeah, exactly. I used to think, hey, if you want to keep your stadium, if you want to keep your team, the city should be responsible for building a stadium. But with the amount of money that's being shelled out for television contracts, both local and national, to these leagues like the NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA, NHL, the league should have some sort of responsibility. Should have a little bit of responsibility, if not most of the responsibility, to make sure that these stadiums are financed, and they should at least pay for half to three quarters. And if they want public support, they'd be willing to meet them somewhere in the middle or somewhere where it doesn't cost as much for these cities to build a stadium. But the brunt of the cost should be coming from the leagues. It should not be coming from the taxpayers.
Yeah. If I may.
Absolutely.
If I may. Well, my thing is yes, I would agree with both of you on this one, that yes, they should foot the bill for the construction of their own stadium. My question is, where are you going to put the new facilities? And if it's going to be in an area, where can you locate it? And considering that, in the case of the Oakland Athletics, what do we know about California state permit laws and construction laws and codes and health codes and whatnot? We don't know what those are.
I can give you a hint. They're regulated to the very last iota because it's California. If you follow politics in California, you know it's going to be heavily regulated with environmental regulations, code regulations, that kind of thing.
Heavily regulated, but not necessarily going to be enforced. But still, if they're going to be, build a new facility or a new stadium, it should be in an area where it's it's going to be logistically, it's going to be logical, and I mean, from a logistical as well as for a cost-effective standpoint. I mean, anybody who knows the construction business well, engineers, also those who understand civil planning and everything, have to understand that if you're going to build a stadium here, you're going to need to have to build a road network and everything that goes with it. Any training facility somewhere like that. But where is that going to be located? And can the fans access that area easily?
So from what I've
seen, but these are things that need to be considered. Now, were all these considered, or did the owners make their minds up, like Dustin said, on moving to Las Vegas? Now, my question is, will they have the same support in Vegas like they do have in Oakland?
It's a great question, and I suppose the new stadium in Las Vegas is going to be around the same area as Allegiant Stadium and T-Mobile Arena, because what the city of Philadelphia did, and this was brilliant on their part. I give full props to Philadelphia. They have Citizens Bank Park, Wells Fargo Arena, and the Link. They'll have it in one central area, one central block of Philadelphia, and that's the smartest thing, because it's because I believe they all share the parking revenue for all their games that are in the area. But that's a brilliant plan. You put all three stadiums in the same general block, and there's not as much road traffic for games unless they have a Sunday night game in late in the season. Or the Phillies and the Eagles have a game on the same day, or the Flyers and the 76ers, or the 76ers and another team have a game on the same day. But they try to stagger those times out so it doesn't conflict and there's not as much traffic going in and out. But I guess it's the same thing for Vegas, where they have Allegiant Stadium, this new ballpark, and T-Mobile Arena all in the same general area.
If I can say something, I've seen this go on in soccer, like in some cases, like soccer fans, they don't want to avoid, when rival opposing teams' fans don't interact with one another for safety. So to limit traffic, sometimes what they do is fans, those who are members of a fan club, they will organize among themselves to have a big bus to help them transport them all to that particular stadium, which saves time and traffic for them. So when they get they get there on time with their tickets, so they don't have to worry about parking, carpoolings and whatnot. So they can get there safely and out and get in, get out. Nobody gets hurt. Of course, certain ticket stands are going to be for one team's supporters. Ticket stands for another. The other ticket stands are going to be for the other side team. So you don't have to worry about any scuffles or anything like that in the soccer stadiums. But unfortunately, this is baseball we're talking about, so you don't have that kind of incidents at all.
Right. Cole says that. Yeah, Cole says I fought hard.
Oakland.
Yeah, he fought hard to want to stay in Oakland, but when Oakland Alameda Coliseum decided to have possums live in the crevices of the facility, they need to get out of there.
It is true. I'm not saying Oakland Alameda is Coliseum is the best. It was always funny too. I like to watch the Raider games like back in the early 2000s and late 90s, and you'd see like the part of the baseball infield still on the field like during the games. It was always it was a signature look, but still, I can't. I just have a hard time believing that the owners actually wanted to keep the team there.
Yeah. He also says the A's follow bowl haircuts since Mark Davis's
Yeah.
lead and use the same excuse as to why they want to leave to the same city, no less.
Yeah.
He also says it's somewhere similar to Stan Kroenke saying to St. Louis, "Hey, we're part of the community," while at the same time building SoFi Stadium in Inglewood. Inglewood always up to no good in California. A's faltering in Oakland is not in the fans at all. Correct.
Yes.
You
Holes
had
on the
perfect-
money.
Yep, you had the perfect storm of wanting to be cheap with the roster, acting as though it was a glorified AAA club, and not re-signing stars when the money became an issue. Yep, exactly. Yep, precisely. So along with that, Oakland has gotten the horrible rap of being extremely poor, and that was the public reason why the Warriors moved to San Francisco, saying the facilities were in the hood. I'm not familiar with the Oakland area. I know they're across the bay from San Francisco, and the Golden State Warriors, had left to go to a brand new shining facility in Oracle Arena in San Francisco.
And they had to cross the Golden Gateway Bridge to do so.
Yep. This truly sucked because I always felt Oakland had a great tradition of rabid, passionate fans. Very true. They're getting the big time middle finger for their devotion. Also true.
Yeah.
And he said that the city has lost the Warriors, the Raiders, and the A's all within 5 years of each other. Yeah, it looks like that it's not going to. The move's not going to happen until 2027. But you never know. I mean, you never know if the city of Oakland or the state of California will come in at the last minute and say, "Hey, whoa! We've got some land over here.
Yeah.
If you're willing to make a deal, we'll love to keep you in town." But it sounds like the ownership is ready to ship on and ship out. It's very sad.
Won't they have to bring possums to that new stadium?
I don't know if possums are native to Nevada, so that's up to them. So another story that's worth noting in Major League Baseball, the Pittsburgh Pirates we've talked about them several times on this podcast already in this young season of Major League Baseball. They did something last night that they meant to do over the past couple of years, actually the past year. They won their 5th consecutive game last night, and as a reward, they get to shave their bench coach's head. And I guess I was reading the story on Major League Baseball on MLB.com, and I guess their bench coach had made a declaration last year if they've won 5 games in a row, they would be able to shave his head. They did it last year in July, and they had won 4 games in a row. And they've come close a couple times, but finally last night they beat the Reds on Friday night. The first time they've won 5 games in a row since April 14th to the 20th of 2019. And for their efforts, they will shave their bench coach's head. Mike, let's see, it's who's the name of the coach? It's just right here.
Let's see.
Let me look it up.
Oh, I got it. I got Don Kelly. Don Kelly, congratulations! You're getting your head shaved as a reward for the players. Dustin, have you heard crazier things happen?
No,
As a reward?
I don't think so. Not that I can think of, but I will say whatever they've got going in Pittsburgh is starting to work. They're having a good time playing baseball. You can clearly see that. And the book has been out on the Pittsburgh Pirates pitching coaching staff for a few years now. There's these pitchers. There's a history of the pitchers going to Pittsburgh and kind of figuring it out there, where maybe they've had some trouble in other places. So the Pittsburgh Pirates pitching coaching staff has been doing something right. Similar to the Giants, the San Francisco Giants have become a little bit of a place where pitchers can rebuild their careers. See Kevin Gausman last year.
Yep.
And he parlayed it, or a couple of years ago rather, and he parlayed it into that contract with the Blue Jays. But Man, the Pirates have it going, and I'm excited for Pittsburgh because I can't remember the last time they were good except for the 90s when a much smaller Barry Bonds was on that team.
I think the mid 2000 from 2010 to 2015 or 16 they were they were a shockingly good team. They went to the playoffs, went to the wild card a couple times. And
Is
Cole
that when
says,
they-
"Great, my former manager will become insufferable when I talk to her next time." Apparently, she's a big Pittsburgh sports fan. So, but no, it's been a minute since the Pirates have been relevant, and they brought in Andrew McCutchen to be the glue guy in that locker room. Mitch Keller is becoming the ace of the staff. He's having a great season. Brian Reynolds, as I've mentioned in our Battle of the Bryans, he's having a really good season. Unfortunately, but it sounds like even with them missing O'Neal Cruz, who had that really unfortunate ankle break, they're doing okay.
Yeah. And I have to raise my hand and say that I was wrong because I thought that O'Neal Cruz injury would go a bit towards derailing their start, but they haven't missed a beat. And what's refreshing to see is clearly they're having a good time, and it sounds like their coaching staff is coming up with creative ways to keep the fun going.
Absolutely. We've got a couple more stories we want to relay before we take another commercial break. Major League Baseball social media, they disobeyed the first rule of the no yesterday. And there was a tweet that was sent out that, let's go to that tweet. And it was from the Chicago Cubs, Los Angeles Dodgers game. Drew Smyly was perfect through 7 innings on Friday afternoon until this happened. And I'll present it to you guys in just a quick second here. Then tragedy struck in the top of the 8th inning.
Oh no.
Little dribbler, third base side, tough play. Oh, no.
I'm seeing this. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's. Oh man, what a way for it to end. I had heard. Jeez. I had heard that Smyly took a no-hitter into the 8th yesterday, but I didn't see this.
Oh, it was a perfect game.
Man, wow.
And a few minutes before, Major League Baseball, their social media team, tweeted out that he has a no through 7 innings. And Dustin, what don't you do in the middle of a no?
You don't talk about it.
Exactly.
That's why. I mean, come on. Look at the pictures from all the teams over the years, or not the pictures, the past broadcast. When a pitcher's pitching a no-hitter or a perfect game, everybody is far away from him.
Yep. Yeah, you don't do that. You don't do that in the middle of a perfect game. And that's the cardinal rule that always gets broken. But here's the thing. It was funny. I forgot which pitcher who threw a perfect game. I think it was David Cone, who, when he threw that perfect game in 1999 for the Yankees, I think he said the effect of, people wouldn't talk. My teammates wouldn't talk to me. My teammates wouldn't talk to me. I'm all tense. Like somebody would have talked to me.
Yeah.
And that's you are like, who says I don't mind if you talk to me during the middle of a no-hitter or a perfect game, but you don't. You don't talk about it.
Yeah, that's a subpar maneuver by the social media team for the Cubs. There, you can't tweet that kind of stuff out. You're just asking for it.
Right.
It's gotten to the point where even NFL announcers will say, before a kicker's going to kick an extra point, they'll say, "I won't say it." Even they realize that the jinx is a thing. You don't. No hitters and perfect games are like Fight Club. First rule is you don't talk about them.
What's the second rule?
You don't talk about them.
Exactly. Before we take another commercial break. We want to talk about the Tampa Bay Rays. We talked about them before in this podcast. They remained perfect at home with a walk-off yesterday, but also homered in every single game they've played this year. And they actually set a Major League Baseball record recently. It was this past week. They had actually tied the record for 20 straight games with a home run and counting. That's an impressive feat in my mind.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's why I said when we talked about it earlier in the season, and it still sounds crazy to say that because the baseball season, we're not that far in yet. But earlier in the season, when you asked me if their winning streak was legit, I said yes, because baseball is such a marathon that it's hard to keep something like that going no matter who you play. And I mean, clearly they've got something going on in the Bay. They've got something going on in Tampa Bay. Yet again.
Yeah, yet again. And to remain perfect at home up until have a perfect, oh, here we go. Have a perfect homestand for your first month of the season is pretty impressive to me. And you figure for a Tampa Bay Rays team, you don't think they can hit the ball out of the park. They have 7 batters who have at least 4 home runs on this team. Yandy Diaz, Brandon Lowe, Randy Arozarena, Wander Franco, Josh Lowe, Harold Ramirez, and Christian Betancourt. All of them have at least 4 home runs. You don't think of the Rays as a team that will hit it out of the park. You think the Rays, they're small ball. They're going to get runs. They're going to manufacture runs on the base paths or get timely hits. This team can rake.
Oh yeah. I mean, I got to give myself a little pat on the shoulder because I'm not doing well in fantasy right now. My pitching's a mess. But I did draft Randy Arozarena for that reason. I thought he'd have some sneaky power. And the Rays as a team, they have sneaky power.
Well, we're going to take one more commercial break. Cole, you're banned. Forget the Rays. The Yankees and the Red Sox are joining the AL East cellar. Good. They belong together. Cole, you're banned.
Yeah.
You're banished.
All right. On behalf of Waza Hefe, Cole, what did I ever do to you, man? What did I ever do to you? Don't do it. That is messed up. Don't do it. That is messed up. That's just wrong. That's foul, man. That's foul. Come on, Cole.
Do you want Bizarro McCoffey to come out, Cole? Do you want that?
No. Regarding the previous news regarding Mr. Don Kelly. Now they've won 5 in a row, and they got him to shave his head. Will they up the ante with their coach and have him? Forgot his name. Derek Shelton. Will they have Derek Shelton up the ante and say if they can go 10 games in a row, he'll shave his head or shave off his beard?
That's a great question.
Yeah, maybe. Or does Don Kelly go crazy and be like, hey, look, 10 games, we're shaving my back. Yeah, we don't know the hair situation.
Right.
But hey, maybe he can use Manscaped. They've been a sponsor before.
That's true. Belly up. Hey, promo code Belly Up for the best Manscaped, the best body shaving you can get. We're gonna take a quick commercial break from our friends at Invader Coffee. When we come back, we're gonna talk about the NFL. We're talking about some of the gambling suspensions that were handed out yesterday. But enjoy this commercial break from Invader Coffee. This episode of No Credentials Required is brought to you by Invader Coffee. For the coffee lover who wants good, quality coffee with no bullshit and no filler, Invader Coffee is an ultra-premium, veteran-owned coffee company proudly delivering only the best coffee your hard-earned money can buy. They aim to only serve the highest quality, organic, air-roasted coffee beans sourced from free trade farms all over the world. They keep things simple. The best coffee at an affordable price in order to provide you with the value you deserve for your morning boost. 100% fair trade, 100% organic coffee beans, 100% air roasted, 100% money back guarantee. Visit invadercoffee.com, enter promo code BELLYUP at checkout, and receive 15% off your order. That's right, folks. The best coffee your money can buy, Invader Coffee. Use the link in our description on YouTube and Facebook. I've been sipping on the Outlander brand, and I guess they still have the offer where if you buy a bag of the Outlander brew, you're entered into a contest where you could win a muscle car, a Chevy Camaro SS, and it looks very impressive on the website if you take a look. But you can also use promo code Belly Up for 15% off your order. So save a little money, help the show, and save a little coin with the promo code.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Sorry for interrupting, if I may. Word to the wise, if either you think about traveling to Scandinavia, understand that they like their coffee black. No cream, no sugar. They drink it straight black.
That's how I drink mine.
When I first came to the country, I kind of got looked at sideways by some people when I put cream and sugar in mine. Although it's been 8 years since I last had a cup of coffee because I don't drink coffee anymore. But it is what it is. Or tea for that matter, but it is what it is. Anyway.
This cultural lesson brought to you by Invader Coffee. Thanks for that, Sikk. But yes,
in association with Screwball VPN. When things get screwy with the Wi-Fi, choose Screwball VPN. The VPN all the way out of left field.
Thank you, Screwball VPN. So let's move on. We're gonna keep this. We're gonna wrap things up with the NFL, and they handed out various gambling suspensions yesterday for violation of rules. 5 players, including 4 from the Detroit Lions, were suspended on Friday for gambling suspensions. Apparently, they had used sportsbook apps to make gambling bets while on club facility grounds. One of those players is Jamison Williams, who was Detroit's first-round pick last year. He gets a 6-game suspension, and also as a result, CJ Moore and Quintez Cephas, they no longer have a job with the Detroit Lions, so they'll definitely suspended indefinitely. Washington Commanders defensive end Shaka Toney was also suspended, as well as Stanley Berryhill, wide receiver from the Detroit Lions. And this kind of poses a question about sportsbook and sports gambling. Now, the NFL, they have various sportsbook companies who are sponsors of the NFL. They pay a lot of money to get sponsorships with the NFL, but you have these gambling suspensions that come out. And I understand that if you gamble, and I guess the story goes that none of these players bet on football games. They didn't bet on NFL games. These were also they were outside of the NFL. But do you guys find it kind of hypocritical about these rules about the NFL having sponsorships with sportsbook companies, but players are not allowed to they're not allowed to gamble themselves?
I guess I'll kick it off by saying yes, I think it is hypocritical, especially since they were not betting on football, because that's where it could get dicey. If this had happened in season and they bet on football, then I would have a bit more of a problem with it. But this is off season. They didn't bet on football, and I think that this is to draw a loose parallel. I also feel like it's hypocritical because it was like the colleges before the players could get their name and likeness royalties. The colleges were making tons of money off these players. Yet if somebody went and bought a player a bagel with cream cheese, it was like a violation. It was ridiculous. Extremely ridiculous. And I think that the NFL having all these sponsorship deals with these gambling companies, but then saying to their players, you can't gamble on anything, period, and you're going to pay the consequences. It reeks of BS for me.
So the person I find at fault the most is DeMaurice Smith. He's the executive director of the NFLPA.
Yeah.
And with these gambling rules made by the NFL, why wasn't he a better representative in saying, okay, can we make some guidelines saying, all right, we'll give you some leeway. We won't have these players they're not going to gamble on the NFL games. That's a given. They're not going to wreck their team's chances at a playoff berth or you can't bet on facility grounds. Great. That's the rule. But and you can't bet in season. You can't bet while you're on the team. Those rules I understand.
Mm-hmm.
However, not being able to do sportsbook on different sports is, that's on DeMaurice Smith. That's DeMaurice Smith's fault for not going to the league and say, hey, what they do recreationally outside of their job, it shouldn't affect how they play.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. They should have had the players union put some caveats in there.
Yeah, the players, that's on DeMaurice Smith, and it's I don't know. I mean, I understand you have guys who are. I mean, this could pose to be a gambling issue. Gambling is an addiction, just as alcohol, any type of hard drug.
Absolutely. I mean, anybody know?
But if you're just doing it recreationally, just for the heck of it, I see no issue with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Who knows about gambling addiction in particular, it'd be wise, as he works with, as he works in the casino and whatnot.
That's true.
But I'm sorry, he's mentioned before. He's talked about how he works the security, or when he's working on the grounds, he's known certain people. And he says, as an employee, it is his obligation, I think, to notify them that there are organizations that could help them overcome their addiction.
Right.
Of course,
they always have those disclaimers in the commercials. If you have a gambling problem, call this number. And depends on the state too. It also depends on the state they're in, because some states don't have sportsbook yet. Mm-hmm. So Michigan, Washington D.C., or Virginia, Maryland, wherever the commander's facility is, they may have a legal sports. They may have legal sportsbook. Some states don't have legal sportsbook just yet.
Well, my question, first of all, regarding the three in, I'm sorry, is it four of them in Detroit? Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Four of them play Detroit. My question is, who is their player association rep? He should have been the first one they should have talked to regarding all this, as well as their agents. It can't just fall on the head of the PA, because every team has their own representative selected by the players, and it is the duty of that particular player to notify the rest of the team what are the guidelines they stat in the third, and what decisions are made regarding the players' union. Otherwise, what's the point of you being a representative of your team in the union?
That's great. That's a great question. But my thing is DeMaurice Smith is the executive director. It's up to him to be proactive and address this issue with the league itself.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing is, you gotta know too. You gotta know your audience, so to speak. One. Everybody likes to gamble a little bit. We all do it in different ways. Fantasy sports is the way that I like to do it. But also, these athletes, they have a certain mindset. I mean, look at Michael Jordan and the rush that he says he gets from gambling. Yeah, you had to know that with sports booking becoming legal in more states, and the advent of everything's on people's smartphones these days, you had to know that this could have come up. I'm not saying anything particular about any athletes or anything, but it's just people of a certain age group and people in general. We like to gamble a little bit, and the easier it is to do so, the more likely we're going to do it on some level. So how could you, as the head of a players association, not see this coming and say, hey, we got to set up some guidelines? And also I saw Cole said in the chat, it is hypocritical. The NFL is making money off of gambling, and you're punishing the players from doing so. And I get it. I get it. The Pete Rose thing made everybody scared, but they didn't. This is not in season. It's not on football, and it's not on their own team. That's the thing, because Pete Rose always claimed he didn't bet on his own team. But I am not a fan of Pete Rose, so there's that. He was a great baseball player, but can't say I'm the biggest fan.
Yeah, and Cole also says the weakest labor union director in the history of professional sports. Ain't that the truth?
Yeah.
Let's say this though, because I'm reading the article right now from NFL.com. Mm-hmm. It says suspensions are the first First one since the banning of receiver Calvin Ridley back in last season, the 2022 campaign. He was suspended an entire season, and it was just recently in the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. To what extent was he gambling, and what was it that he was gambling in?
Well, he was gambling while he was taking time away from the Atlanta Falcons. So I think what the NFL was trying to do is set a precedent and saying, hey, this is serious. Don't gamble during the season or any time or on facility grounds because there will be consequences. And that's what happened with Calvin Ridley. He said too, he says, I made a mistake. I own up to it. I'm going to be better for it.
Yeah.
Basically, as Snowman would say, what they did was conduct detrimental to the league, in a sense. That could be the argument right there. However, what I can say is, like, as far as the teams and the league banning these players, defining them, unless these players are getting endorsements from these very same gambling outlets and whatnot, what is the problem? Besides them playing, unless they were on the grounds in the off season, like you said just now. But since they were, there was no harm, no foul. But since they were in places where they should not have done it, and we understand that, like Dustin mentioned, the availability of these outlets through the internet, especially through your phone or tablets. Everyone has a phone. And from what I can understand, because, like, first of all, folks, bear in mind, I'm on the other side of the Atlantic here.
Right.
They have stricter regulations regarding gambling and whatnot here.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen ads for gambling houses, for gambling outlets here, and I know not to mess with that because I've seen the dangers of gambling. I almost got caught up in that one time, but thankfully, I saw it beforehand and I realized I need to stay away from this. But I also understand the dangers of these things. But they also have safety precautions. They have put in some safety guidelines as well. But my question is, did you have that stateside with these gambling outlets? With these gambling outlets, sorry. Gambling outlets, excuse me. My mouse not working today.
That's okay. Well, it depends on the state because some states, for New York, they started sportsbook, I think, January 1st of last year. So it depends on which state. They have certain sportsbook companies they go through. I know with New York, it's DraftKings. We have a sponsorship with Belly Up Sports and with Gozilla Media for DraftKings. So it all depends on which state you're in and which company you're going through. They only have a certain amount. I know with New York, they only have a certain amount of sportsbook companies you can go through. I think it's DraftKings, FanDuel, and I forgot the other 2 or 3. Rivers, because there's Rivers Casino outlets in Schenectady and Mohawk and whatnot. So it depends on the company. So and Cole says that's why you have those lines that have a 6-game suspension. It's the first offense, suspension length for quote conduct detrimental to the league, unquote. So
I would argue it has to be that extent of the suspension because, of course, the punishment has to match the crime.
Yeah,
that's the argument right here. So the question is, where do you draw the line right there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
well, I think Calvin Ridley was the first shoe to fall.
Yeah, and I think what made that tough is that you had the Deshaun Watson situation going on at the same time.
Yeah.
And some other situations where the suspension was less severe for, in my view, a much greater offense. So the NFL has always had a bit of a problem figuring this kind of stuff out. Because even in this example, he said 2 players got cut. Jameson Williams, because he was their high draft pick, they're not going to cut him. They're not going to suspend him for a full year. So they're going to suspend him 6 games, which – it's not great anyway, because I, for one, am looking forward to seeing Jameson Williams on the field next year, and I was looking forward to seeing him from week 1 because he came back from that injury. But the NFL has always been a little fast and loose with their guidelines on suspension, and that's the frustrating thing.
Well, I'm just looking at this, and it says both Quintus Cephas CJ Moore and Shaka Tony are indefinitely suspended.
Yeah.
Right, and that's why Cephas and Moore were both released by the Lions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, they can apply for reinstatement after or the end of this coming season, or this 2023 season. Afterwards, they can apply for reinstatement. But the question right there says, where do you draw the line on the punishment matching the crime?
Right, and that's what we have to figure out. That's what the NFL and the NFLPA have to figure out and get together on. So, what's that?
Basically, a lot of this is like uncharted waters for a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely.
Both the players, because when you bring in like certain gambling houses, gambling outlets, now having sponsorship deals with these with sports organizations and whatnot, that raises questions of whether or not you should be allowing this.
Right.
I mean, sometimes because there could be a conflict of interest right there.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. We had two other stories to get to. The Aaron Rodgers situation with the Jets. I'm just going to say this. I kind of feel like Butters from South Park in the Super Cool News episode when he's on Celebrity Watch and he gets asked if he's seen any celebrities. But he says, I thought I saw Sigourney Weaver, but it was just a dead horse. That's how I feel right now about the Aaron Rodgers to the Jets situation.
All I can say about that is this. And unfortunately, I got killed. Somebody say, you know what.
And apparently Tom Brady was supposed to go to the Dolphins, but I don't really care about that. So we're just gonna end things here. So folks.
Before we do, I just have to say this one thing, as someone who understands psychedelics, and I know we all do poke fun at Mr. Rogers, I just have to say, what's good? Nothing to do with Aaron Rodgers. No. His failure with the Packers is his own undoing. It is. He's in denial, circle of denial. He's in denial, circle of denial. He's in the circle of denial. Ooh, the Packers have failed. He's in the circle of denial. I'm not going to get a big finish here.
Well done. So that's going to end everything here.
Ayahuasca should not have the bad rap here, just the same as we could say with Ibogaine, which is an important thing, which is proven to be far better than what is it called? Subtintron to combat heroin and opioid addiction, or even peyote cactus and such like this. Yeah, even medicinal cannabis and hemp. But that's another discussion for another time. And Ryan, thank you for having me over. Dustin, it's been a pleasure to make your acquaintance, sir.
Wow, nice to meet you too, Sikk. Thanks for the education on all the soccer stuff.
And we look forward to more anthropology talk here on No Credentials Required. But in the meantime, our socials, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, at NoCredsREQ, Facebook.com/NoCredsREQ, YouTube.com/@NoCredsREQ if you're watching live or you're watching on the replay. Smash that like button if you're watching on either Facebook or YouTube. Smash responsibly. If you're listening on the podcast side, subscribe to our podcast by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Google Play, wherever you podcast, rate and review. Give us a 5-star rating. That way people know we're out there. And if you leave a review, no matter how mean or how nice it is, we'll even read it on the air. So, for Sikk Diggy, for Dustin Henry, my name is Ryan McCarthy. You have been watching or listening to No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports. We are presented by Belly Up Sports in association with Gozilla Media. We will be back here Monday, May 1st at 7 p.m. And we'll be on Monday nights exclusively from then until Labor Day. We were going to do a Monday show, but we're going to celebrate my sister's birthday instead. So that's why we did the Saturday Brunch show. So
making it work.
That's right. So thank you again for watching or listening. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.
Good afternoon, everybody.
The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.